They say there's a place behind the walls of the world, endless halls, humming lights, and something that walks when you stop. This is the Whispering Halls.
They say the world has corners that were never meant to be found, places built in between everything else, the gaps behind the walls, the breath between lights. And sometimes when you step just wrong enough, you don't fall down, you fall through. They call it the Backrooms. Endless yellow halls, carpet damp with something that never dries, lights that never sleep. No doors, no windows, just the hum, steady, low, and alive. No one knows how people get there. But the stories all start the same way. One man said he was working late in a government office, following a loose wire behind a filing cabinet. He leaned too far, slipped, and never hit the floor. Another said she was repairing an old elevator when the light blinked once, and when it came back on, the doors opened onto the wrong world. And then there was the janitor. He's the one they still talk about because he made it farther than anyone else. He told people he didn't remember falling, just a sound, a pop, like his ears adjusting to a plane cabin. When he stood up, everything around him was wrong. The carpet smelled like wet dust and mold, the walls were too close together, the corners too sharp, and the air hummed. Not electricity, not machinery, just vibration, endless and steady. He said he started walking. Every hallway looked the same. Yellow walls, brown stains, a flicker somewhere ahead. He marked a line on the wall with his pen. 5 minutes later, he passed it again. The ink was still wet. He tried turning corners at random. Still the same hum, same pattern of buzzing light. After a while, he noticed the hum had split, a higher tone layered on top of the low one, just faint enough to itch the back of his teeth. That's when he stopped feeling alone. He told a friend later, before he vanished again, that it wasn't footsteps he heard, it was timing. His own steps echoed back a half-second late. He'd take one step, then hear it repeat from somewhere just out of sight, like a mirror that wanted to remember. He started calling out. Nothing answered. But a few minutes later, he heard his own voice coming back, half a sentence, softer, as though something nearby was practicing the sound of his words. He said he began to notice movement in reflections, not people exactly, but changes. On one turn, the light ahead would pulse once, then twice, like a heartbeat, then stop, then pulse again when he wasn't looking. He followed the hum to what he thought was a maintenance door. The handle was warm. When he opened it, there was nothing behind it, just more walls, more carpet, more humming. But lying across the threshold was a scrap of paper. It was damp and smeared with ink. He could only make out 2 words, keep walking. He folded it into his pocket and kept going. Hours didn't feel like hours there. His watch ticked, but the second hand never moved. He said the lights flickered in rhythm, a 5-beat pattern that started matching his heart. Whenever he stopped, the hum grew louder, like the walls were breathing closer. He tried lying down once. The carpet pulsed under him, slow and heavy like a muscle flexing. He got up again and ran until his legs shook. Then, far ahead, he saw something move. Not fast, just a shift, a shadow that didn't belong to him. When he blinked, it was gone, but the hum had changed. The low note had dropped into a voice, still mechanical, still distant, repeating a single phrase. He never told anyone what the words were. He said the halls began to lean. Floors tilted, walls bowed inward. The air smelled of burnt insulation and wet paint. Every time he turned, the corridors rearranged, folding like paper creased by invisible hands. Sometimes he caught glimpses of stairs that went nowhere, or door frames nailed shut from the inside. At some point, he found a doorway with no light beyond it. He reached through, and the air on the other side was cold, real cold, like outside in winter. He thought it might be an exit. He stepped through. When he crossed that threshold, he said the air pressed against him like water. Each breath came slow, thick, and heavy. The light behind him dimmed, yet his own shadow kept stretching forward, reaching around corners he couldn't see. The carpet was gone now, just bare concrete, faintly wet, sloping downward. He thought he heard rain, but when he held out his hand, the droplets fell upward into the dark. He followed the sound anyway. The passage widened into a hall lined with mirrors, each one cloudy, trembling with the same low vibration that filled the rest of the place. He said one reflection was wrong, standing half a step out of time, mouth open as if whispering. He turned away, but the voice still came, soft and close to his ear. Not this way. The hum surged until it swallowed the words. Then the mirrors cracked inward, folding their light into a single thin doorway ahead. He ran through before the sound could close around him. And that, he told them later, was the last thing he remembered clearly. The sense of being pushed out of a world that didn't want him anymore. The next thing he remembered was waking up in an empty sub-basement of a building slated for demolition. Concrete walls, broken lights, same hum, still in his ears. He walked outside and threw up in the grass. Everything looked normal. But he said the sunlight flickered, just once, like the bulb in those halls. When he finally told his story, nobody believed him. They said he'd had a breakdown, maybe inhaled cleaning chemicals. He quit that job a week later, moved 2 states over, but a month later one of his old coworkers disappeared during an overnight shift. Security cameras froze for 37 seconds. When they came back online, the floor she'd been mopping was empty, mops still standing upright, and the humming had come through the speakers for almost an hour before it stopped. After that, the janitor stopped answering calls. Police found his apartment empty. Car still in the lot. Front door locked from the inside. Only one thing left behind, a folded scrap of paper on the kitchen table. It said, "Keep walking."
If the story kept you by the fire tonight, leave a like to feed the flames, and subscribe for the next Whisper in the Dark.